As always, appreciate you guys joining us today. Coming off of a bye week where we felt like we had a pretty productive week. You know, the goal for us was to get healthy mentally and physically with that time off, and then take a deep dive into what we've done in the first 6 games, first half of the year from a quality control standpoint, self-scout. Guys got some rest away from the field, including our coaches, which was important. And we're hopefully able to return some guys from the injury report that have been banged up. When you talk about injuries, we'll get this out there now. We'll be without, obviously, Jay Sean Jones, who had a lower leg injury that will require season-ending surgery, as well as Darrell Chami. Darrell Chami had season-ending upper body surgery. We do think we'll be able to have Brandon Jennings back, and very hopeful to have Jacorian Bennett and Kenny Bennett back in the secondary. A little bit about Minnesota, obviously coming off of a big win over Nebraska. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. When you look at their depth chart, they're very senior-laden, grad-laden program, which, when you have that type of experience, and especially with the type of program they have, it'll be a great challenge for us. They're strong on both sides of the front. Their O-line, like I said, a lot of career starts out of that group. Their D-line, again, a lot of career starts. They've got a grad transfer, Mike linebacker from Abilene Christian, who has been a great addition to their defensive front. I know they're highly ranked defensively in run defense and in scoring defense. And then on offense, the quarterback is who makes them go. Tanner Morgan seems like he's been there for a long time. Number 7, Altman Bell, is a big-time weapon. It makes contested catches, has kind of been their number 2 guy up to this year, and has really stepped up to be a number 1 receiver. As I told our team, we sit here 4-2, and if somebody told us at the beginning of the year that we'd have a chance to be 4-2 at the halfway point, I think every one of us would be pretty happy with it. Obviously, being able to get some guys back from injury, we're hoping that we can, again, start this second half of the season the right way. I feel our best football is still ahead of us, and we've got a lot of work to do. But I've been really encouraged by this team and the way we've practiced and the way they've played to the standard, for the most part. We lost to 2 of the top teams in our league, again, and not being with all of our players. And again, it shows us we still have a ways to go against the elite programs. But I feel very confident that we'll get there because of the type of kids we have in our program. So our captains for this week will be Challen Fa'al-Matau, Sam Okwanu, and Lautez Rogers. So those will be our 3 captains leading us up to Minnesota. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Mike, coming out of the bye week, obviously you guys took a look at the last 2 games heading into it. Defensively, what do you feel is fixable from what you guys saw on tape, and going up against a team like Minnesota? What sort of pressure do they put on a defense like yours?
I think the big thing is, they obviously are a team that wants to run the football, with their front. They do a great job in the RPO game. They do a good job of the shot plays off the run game. That's who they are. I felt like one of the things we've been able to do against 2 of the top teams was play to run, but we gave up a lot of explosive plays in the passing game, which hadn't been something that we had done earlier in the year. But obviously when you're playing without your top 3-4 corners, the next man has to step up. Like I said, we faced 2 of the top teams in our league, and the thing that was disappointing is that we haven't created the turnovers we had in the first 3 games or first few games. And the last 3 games we haven't created any turnovers. And then obviously we've turned it over on the offensive side of the ball. And no matter how you cut it up or however you look at it, if you're not creating turnovers and you're turning it over, you're not giving yourself a chance to win. And so for us, we've got to get back to creating turnovers. Obviously, coming up with the best scheme that can keep the ball in front to limit the big plays that we gave up. And I feel good that we've got some of that stuff addressed through the bye week.
Coach, good to see you.
Hey, Alif.
Did you communicate an extra sense of urgency because of this game, knowing the situation, coming off the bye week with the last 2 losses? Is there more of an urgency for this to be a get-right game for your program?
No, our opponents are faceless and nameless. We have a standard in which we go about every week of practice. What I've made a priority for us during the bye week was getting mentally and physically healthy. We're a team that kind of were limped into the bye week. I'm hoping we're getting some of these guys back, which I've been encouraged with the time off. We've been able to, maybe bring some of these guys back, but then also what a great opportunity for some young guys to have to step up. When you lose Ja'Shawn Jones and Dante Demas, and you add a Marcus Fleming and a Dede McDougal, who are 2 talented young players in our program, that, what an opportunity they have. And I think they both, when you study them and you see the type of players they are, I feel like I'm excited because we've created some depth there to where now these guys get these opportunities and we get a chance to see what they do with them.
Coach, with the young defenders that got to play in the later part of Iowa and against Ohio State, what is their mood and how did they grade out being freshmen and their first times on the field there?
How you think they graded out against Ohio State?
Not too well, but
Okay.
I'm wondering
All right, just checking.
what you say to those guys to keep them in their growth pattern.
They play corner. They're going to get beat. I'm looking for guys we recruit guys that play with confidence. Obviously, they went against, in Ohio State, 2 or 3 of the top receivers in our league, and against Iowa, one of the top programs in our league. So those are challenging matchups for young players, but that's why we recruit them here. That's why we coach and develop them. I got a lot of confidence in guys like Corey Coley. Levante Gators played a lot of football around here. You saw a few other guys out there, that got opportunities. So what we do is, again, they've got to keep their confidence, and it's our jobs as coaches to make sure that we're doing things that they can execute that allows them to be their best. So, what we need to do, if we can't play man coverage, then we need to adjust what we call on the back end and do what our personnel allows us to do. And that's what Brian Stewart and the defensive staff have really did a good job as we looked at who we are now based on injuries, based on performance, to, hey, let's put the best schemes in place which give us the best chance to win.
Coach, on the same subject, I noticed that Dante Trader moved up into the depth chart this week. I know his history of being from McDonough. I've watched him and everything. How satisfied are you with what he's shown so far? Because for a freshman to get there, it's unusual.
Well, he's gotten there because of obviously injuries. He's been a guy that we've continued to develop. He's played for us just about in every game. He's become a guy that's helped us with special teams. I think Dante has a really bright future. He's one of those guys that's always around the ball. He's smart, tough, reliable. But obviously you lose a guy like, 38, Glendon Miller, who we moved to corner, and then Glendon goes out with a concussion the first kickoff of the game. So Dante moves up, and so Glendon's working himself back, which we expect him back this week. But we've also, because of the corner situation, we moved Glendon to corner, which now allows Dante to be in the 2 deep. I told you guys earlier this year when asked why we play so many players, this is exactly why we do it, because this is a physical game. You're going to lose bodies, you're going to lose players because of the physicality of the game of football, and we've got to make sure that now that we're in that meat of our schedule, that these guys aren't playing for the first time, and we've been really happy with the way Dante's developed. He's a guy that was on the field against Illinois during crunch time. So he's building his toolbox, and like I said, got a bright future around here.
I know you mentioned Jacorian. Did you mention Kenny Bennett?
Yeah, I said
okay.
Jacorian and
Just wanted to make
Kenny are both, they've practiced the last couple of days. I'm hopeful they'll be both game time decisions, but if not, we'll play the guys available.
That was probably my fault. When you look at the self-scout from last week, what's something that you particularly kind of want to see show up in this game that maybe shows that you took that step
Well,
forward?
I think the biggest thing, so our recipe for winning, Emily, is create big plays and limit big plays, and create turnovers and limit turnovers. And if we kind of do those things, like the 2 on offense is to limit turnovers and create big plays, and if we do it on the opposite on defense, you usually give yourselves a chance to win. Each week I do a thing for our team that says the value of turnovers, and you know, when you study the Big Ten, based on all the games played this year, the teams that are on the plus ratio side of turnovers is like 32-5, the overall composite record. And if guys under that or the negative side of the turnover ratio, they're like 9-20, whatever. So to me, it's a pretty simple formula that we got to get back to is creating turnovers, taking care of the football on offense, generating some explosive plays with our offense, which we feel we got weapons in the backfield, a quarterback that has the ability, receivers and tight ends that are still available, and then defensively limiting those big plays, which, you know, we didn't do against Ohio State and didn't do against Iowa the way that I feel like we're capable of.
Hey, Coach, good to see you.
What's up, Sean?
Just taking you back to last year's game against Minnesota, just what you remember about that night and how special that night was for you, your program, and your players?
You know, that was a long time ago, man. I think we had a pandemic going or something back then. Kind of still is going, but no, I mean, I think this is our 6th time playing Minnesota now. I think the last game of, you know, the crossover rival game that we've had. I just remember the ebb and flow of it, having studied it again because it's in our scouting, our scout film that we used this week to kind of say, hey, here's some of the things that worked, that didn't work. I know that our quarterback played at a really high level, made plays with his arm and his feet. We generated some explosive plays. I know we got a couple of turnovers there in that game. It was a really, really hard-fought game. I mean, we got out early. They made a great comeback. The game went in overtime. And you know what? It'll be that type of game this year. Road wins in conference are tough to go get. And it's going to take our best. And as I challenged our team, we got to show up. Our best has to show up on Saturday at 2:30 Central Time up there in Minneapolis. And the way that happens is we got to prepare Monday through Friday to our standard as if we're going to play the best opponent that we can face. And I think if we do that and we do a good job of just playing to that standard that we set, we'll be okay.
Hey, Coach, good to see
Hey,
you.
Ahmed, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Great.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned, Jacorian and Kenny, obviously, potentially could come back, if it all kind of checks out. But I'm kind of curious, if they do, how does that help the defense maybe get back to where they kind of were playing, or how does that help maybe disrupt Tanner Morgan a little bit?
Well, I think the big thing is those are experienced players. I mean, Jacorian started since he's been here and has a skill set that I think that will allow him to play on Sunday. Kenny has the same type, adds length to our secondary, can run, and has a physicality presence. I think being able to add them back gives us some versatility in some of the things we might want to do. Obviously, we have a good understanding of who Minnesota is. They want to run the ball, and they're going to take shots off the run, the play action shots, and then they've got some RPO stuff with a quarterback that kind of makes them go. So the big thing for us is, again, limiting those explosive plays, and I think both those guys, because of their skill set, allows us to limit those explosive plays.
Coach, hi. 2 questions, if I may. You talk about getting explosive plays. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, for the first couple of games, Dante Demas was your main target for big explosive plays. So how have you adjusted to his absence, and obviously the defense focusing more on Raheem, defending Raheem from getting those plays? So how have you seen where you're going to get the explosive plays come, and the progression that Talia has made in going through his progressions?
Man, you just took me through a maze, man. I think what you're asking is losing production like we had in Dante Demas, what do we do? I mean, it's next man up. I mean, it's always been that way with me. You've never heard me be a guy up here that cries about losing players to injury. We've recruited a room of receivers that I think are really, really strong. And, Dante Demas made a bunch of plays for us. Rakim at one point made a ton of plays for us. We got Jay Sean Jones back. Darryl Jones has big play potential. Was there a comfort level? I think so, between Demas and Leah. But as I said earlier, we've got guys that haven't had opportunities because of the depth that we created, like a Dawan McDougal, like a Marcus Fleming. And I'm going to just tell you right now, both those guys were heavily recruited, had a lot of offers, could go anywhere in the country for the most part. And we're very fortunate that those guys are the next men up for us. A guy like Rakim, as opposed to Rakim, is a guy that As I talked to him the last couple of days, he's no longer the little brother in the room. He now has to become kind of the big brother. And I always say leadership is having a positive impact on others. There's no different here, so Rakim, we're going to have to get a little bit more out of him. Our quarterback does a great job of distributing the ball. We got tight ends, Corey Dyches, Chig, both talented players, our running back. So we still got enough weapons because of how we've recruited that we can find and generate explosive plays wherever we need to. And our quarterback has the ability to do a good job of finding those guys.
Quick follow-up. How has Tulia adapted towards seeing a opposing crowd so far in the season? What have you seen from him?
I think he's adapted very well.
Coach, against Ohio State, right here, sorry. Coach, against Ohio State, Chigozie Okonkwo led Maryland's pass catchers in receiving yards. What have you seen from him as this season has gone along in his pass catching ability?
You know, the good thing is that Chig has really developed himself both as, as much as the pass catching, his ability to own the C area, as we like to call it. He's a talented matchup for us, a guy that we've got to continue to find ways. I'm big on trying to find ways to get your best player the ball. And Chig is one of those best players for us, along with Corey Dyches. Like I said, the room of running backs that we have with Fleet Davis and Kobe McDonald stepping up now, as well as Penny Boone, which Penny's had a great week of practice during this bye week, and I'm excited for him with the injury there to Isaiah Jacobs. That kind of now, Penny's the next man up. So I've been happy with the way Chig has progressed in our system, and definitely a guy that we've got to continue to find ways to get targets. Thanks, guys.